What is going on, Dark Daily? Welcome to another edition of Out of the Box. It is Gabe, Riberio, your resident MCU geek, back with another video. A new year is upon us, and with a new year comes a new phase for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're going into Phase 5 with the MCU with WandaVision. The trailer looks fantastic. I'm pretty damn hyped. But if we're going to take a stroll back down memory lane, let's look back at the Marvel Cinematic Universe shows on Disney Plus in Phase 4. And that is what we're doing today. Today, we're going to go over my ranking of the MCU shows on Disney Plus. Full discretion here, there will be spoilers, and I'll say this right ahead, I am counting What If, but I am not counting Werewolf by Night or the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, but on the record, they are both pretty great. Let's get to that ranking, shall we? Number 8, and yeah, we're going to have to start from the bottom of the barrel here. It's going to be She-Hulk. I know. I don't hate this show as much as I feel like a lot of people did when it aired. Tatiana Maslany actually commits to this role, and there is a running thread of her trying to balance being a superhero and a lawyer. I like that aspect of it. The show is very much a composition that is made up of one thing that is good, followed by two things that are bad about it. I love all the fun cameos from Emil Blonsky to Bruce Banner, and then we get to see Wong back with his friend Madison. That's one of the highlights of that season with that episode was fantastic. We got to see Matt Murdock back, and it's Charlie Cox, and he's in the MCU now. But all that said, the writing is very sloppy. It goes from being a silly lawyer show to, well, having admittedly choppy CGI. It gets bonkers with the meta aspect. And I want to defend the show, but that last episode where it just becomes her jumping out of the Disney Plus menu to the writer's room, only to confront Kevin, who's a robot who's monitoring everything. It was just too weird and out of nowhere, and I was tilting my head. I'm like, what is going on? And then Bruce shows back up with a son, which I know is in the comics, but it's legitimately out of nowhere in universe after Bruce has been cemented as somebody who cannot procreate. So on top of that, it's silly, and that Megan Thee Stallion twerking, that was a thing that happened. It's a mixed bag, and unfortunately, every show in this ranking is better than it, but I don't think it was as bad as it was made out to be. I actually like that they made fun of Twitter haters and toxic masculinity, but at the end of the day, that's not enough to keep it out of the bottom spot. Number 7 is Moon Knight. I think this show was better suited as a movie, and Marvel's been juggling projects which they don't know what they want to be, a series and a movie anymore. This should have been a movie. I think all the elements are there to make it a better movie than it was a show. She-Hulk was weird at times, but Moon Knight to me was just very dull at points. The story is good enough on the whole, but I just feel like some of the in-betweens of the plot threads between Mark and Steven struggling over that entity, the whole thing with Layla as a subplot, she became the Scarab, that's great. Arrow is a decent enough villain, but it's kind of like the same kind of principles as Thanos, sacrifices for the greater good. We got a big Egyptian god fight. F. Murray Abraham is Khonshu, more like A+ Murray Abraham. But we got a big fight with Atem, and she got resurrected, and Mark and Steven reconciled, but everything in between that was just dull to me. And I don't need action-packed stuff all the time if there's compelling stories, but Oscar Isaac's portrayal, whilst being a great actor, almost grated on me between the back and forth and Steven, and I was just not into it. And everything else was just building up to Harrow and resurrecting Atem, and I was just not huge on it. It was just dull to me. And I felt like with the fight scenes, they wanted to have really cool stuff with Moon Knight and Mr. Knight, and they have some back and forths, but no fights stick out to me, and it just feels like most of the time it's Mark or Steven blacking out, and we just see the aftermath. And that is why I can't put it any higher on this list. Coming in at 6 is What If. It's canon, but it's not canon. It's a weird mixed bag. I was reluctant to watch it. I actually didn't pick it up until the first week after it aired, and then I watched the first 2 episodes back to back. I like the stories it tells. Some of those episodes are really good. I love that Doctor Strange episode, practically being a precursor to Multiverse of Madness. We get T'Challa as Star-Lord with Chadwick Boseman's last performance. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. The MCU will not be the same without him. But then there's some episodes that are kind of bad that I don't like. Personally, I was almost ready to rage quit the show when Hank Pym Yellowjacket was trying to take out the Avengers, and I was calling BS. And the Thor as like just the party boy in Vegas with Jane Foster, it just reminds me too much of Thor Love and Thunder, which that's a video for another day. I like the animation style. I love Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher. Personally, I would rather the show just be a hypothetical show that's not linear, that, you know, has a through line throughout the show where everything that is hypothetical ties into the last 2 episodes. I'd rather it just be one-offs, like an anthology. Personally, that's just my opinion. But overall, I thought the show was pretty decent. Coming in at number 5 is Miss Marvel. I was shocked. I actually enjoyed the hell out of this show. I mean, it wasn't like anything groundbreaking or anything, but you can definitely tell that Iman Vellani is all in on this role. She's over the moon for playing an MCU character. She's apparently a huge comics fan. I like the history lesson of the partition being part of the plot and her finding out her roots, and, you know, she's got that whole struggle of trying to be a teenager and also being a superhero. She has good chemistry with the character of Bruno and Cameron. The clandestines, not the greatest villains in the world, but you're not really in it for them. You just want to see how Kamala Khan embraces her role as a superhero, and you can just see that she's over the moon of potentially meeting Carol Danvers, which you know is going to come up soon. And I'm actually like huge on that, because you can tell that the actor and the character are in on that. I just like it as a representation of what the teenage crowd that are a little younger than I was when the MCU was huge are now seeing, and then they can relate to these characters. So in that regard, I think it does a good job. Coming in at number 4 is got to be Hawkeye. I got to be honest, I thought this show was a blast. For the most part, I was never really bored with it. It entertained me. It doesn't have elements that like take it to the top, but it has a good relationship story between Clint and Tate becoming partners. Haley Steinfeld, she's going to be a welcome addition to the MCU. I love the Rogers musical. The tracksuits, they're kind of dumb villains, but it leads us into Echo, which will give us a spin-off in the MCU, so kudos to them in that regard. And she's unique enough. We get the return of Kingpin. Huge. Thumbs up to that. And if this is, hopefully, Jeremy Renner to the cover, but if this is his swan song, at least he's got a nice apprentice now in Kate Bishop, and she's won over the MCU so far. And I thought, for the most part, it was a hell of an entertaining show. We even brought Yelena back, and we have that through line with her wanting to get back to Clint. Good stuff all around. Coming in at 3 is Loki. I thought this show was pretty damn entertaining throughout. I like that we essentially had to hit the reset button with Loki. So now he's this universe's Loki with all of the archive footage of the Loki that died. Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson have great chemistry, and I would have never thought that I would see that coming. We see different variations of Loki with Richard E. Grant in the old comic book appearance. I thought that was great. We got a gator Loki, a little kid. His relationship with Sylvie is pretty good. And they introduced Ken, which is also good. The only thing that I think hinders it is that the show is incomplete because we have to have a second season. I think that might be some pandemic-related filming stuff. And the introduction of Kang is like a 30-minute exposition dump in one episode. And then it just kind of becomes abrupt where the timelines get split up. I thought it was really good. I'm looking forward to the next season, but because of its incomplete nature, I can't have it any higher. But I thought it was great. Number 2 is WandaVision. This is the first of the Disney Plus shows, and people didn't know what to expect. And as the episodes went along, we saw what this show was going for. I know a lot of people complained that the first episode sucked. They didn't know what was going on, but I said just pay attention and keep with the story, and things will come to fruition. And they do. We get an introduction, or I should rather say reintroduction, of Jimmy Woo and Darcy, fan favorite characters. We get Agatha Harkness in the story now, when most people thought it was Mephisto. She has a good character there. Catherine Hahn plays her very well, and she even got a spin-off that's in the works, I think. But Wanda's grief as it pertains to Vision and how she possesses the town and all the TV references I thought really good. The only thing that I think is a downer about it is the final fight with Agatha and Wanda feels like a CGI beam struggle battle from Dragon Ball Super. Also, Evan Peters came back as a fake Quicksilver, and he's now Ralph Boner. Yeah. Overall, WandaVision, good stuff. Number 1 is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Everybody knows that I'm a huge Captain America fan, especially with all 3 of the movies in the cinematic universe so far. I thought this show does exceptionally well, feeling cinematic but also episodic. It gives closure to Bucky's arc. Everybody thought he should have the shield, but might I remind you, he killed Tony's parents. So it should go to Sam. Not a great soldier, but a good man. And I love that Sam struggles throughout the show to embrace the shield and embrace Captain America. The Isaiah Bradley story is really good. Carly Morgenthau is like a weird villain because she's somewhat compelling, but she flip-flops from what she wants. So I feel like the real villain story is John Walker and his sort of redemption. But it does set up Thunderbolts. We get Valentina. Who doesn't love Zemo's return and those dance moves? But overall, I thought the show was fantastic. It looked outstanding, and I liked majority of the storyline that went throughout. And then it's my favorite Disney Plus MCU show. So that's it for my ranking, guys. Where do you rank the MCU shows? What order do you have? Let me know in the comments. Tell me how I'm wrong. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is Gabe Riberio, and I'll see you next time.